Because see, sellers are ready to push back, especially on our commission. And so people ask me all the time, like, well, what do you do when somebody asks you to cut your commission? I never get the question. It never comes up. They assume when they see, and it, you guys haven't even seen like my presentation folders and all the stuff I'm putting together. It's nuts. And it's not very expensive, by the way. But when they see it, they just assume that I'm going to charge them more money. It's just like when you go into a store and you see a certain kind of, suit, or you walk into a certain store. My wife, she walks in the Louis Vuitton store. I already know we, and most of the time it's just to look, thank God. But I already know I'm not going to be negotiating. I'm not going to be asking if they can cut the prices. Could I get a discount? What kind of sales do you have? None of that's going to happen. Welcome to the Success with Listings podcast, where we help you get success in the real estate game the easy way. Now you can get off the roller coaster of feast and famine and out of the rat race of competing with every other agent in town. Hi, I'm Knolly Williams. I took over 1,000 listings during my first 10 years in the real estate game, and in this podcast, I show you how to have success with listings. Let's go. All right, why my home is special. Now, this document has really, really, really helped me over the years. What I do is I have a seller articulate to me, and this is the script I use for it. I say, hey, Stephanie, and by the way, I don't go through any of this until I've already had them sign the listing paperwork. Okay, they sign the listing paperwork. They already have my pre-listing package, or they've had it, or they've done this homework before I show up. Okay, they've already done it before I show up, which I kind of taught you guys that before. Ideally, you would want them to do it before you show up. You just let them know, hey, in the pre-listing package, there is homework and it's these pages. We want to make sure you have those pages filled out along with two keys, when I arrive. Now, if you have an assistant, it's even better because they're going to say, hey, when Cindy gets there, she'll be there at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Make sure you have the seller homework completely filled out along with two keys. Oh, you're going to do that? Okay, great. And then they call an hour before your appointment or 2 hours before, the morning of. Oh, you haven't done the homework yet? Well, make sure that's done. Cindy will be there at 2 o'clock. Make sure you got the homework done and two keys. Then when you get to the house, you see that the homework packet is finished, completed, and they got two keys sitting up there. What's that tell you? You got it. So these are little psychological things that you can do ahead of time. We know that in negotiating that if you can you can, I'm trying to say this delicately. If you can, you're not controlling people, but if you basically you're in a leadership role. When you're doing a listing, you're the leader. Sometimes I have to ask my sellers because they start giving me advice, which I don't mind. I like having more than one head on a problem or an issue. But a lot of times they try to tell me about how to do my job, and I say, hold on a second. Carol, just remind me, how many homes have you sold again? And she'll say, well, I've sold about three. Ah, I get that. That's great. Carol, I've sold, and I tell her my number. Okay. I, you know, this, I know how to do this, Carol. Let me go ahead and do, so I'm kind of gently, delicately, because some people will try to micromanage. Most people, when they see everything that you've put together, they don't want to micromanage you because they have trust and faith. The reason people micromanage because they have trust issues. And what all this whole package does is remove those trust issues from you so that they're like, hey, I'm just going to back up and let her do her job. I'm good. So if I can get them to comply, I'm looking for compliance from my clients. If I can get them to comply, I say, hey, I want you to do this. Can you have it done for me by tomorrow at 3? And I'll give them deadlines because I want to see. And if they don't do it, I'm like, okay, well, I got more work to do. It's called managing your client. Okay. It's called managing your client. A lot of times in negotiation, we understand what those terms mean. And a lot of times I'll tell another agent, I'm say, look, I'm managing my client. You need to put the leash on yours. I got my client. Mine is good. I got, and so the other day, we Josie went out for a walk, and I couldn't go walking, So you went by herself, and all of a sudden I hear these dogs like yelping and yelping and loud noise. So I run to the front, and well, this lady has a pit bull that was had another dog in his jaws, and another neighbor's dog. Well, this little dog ran up to the pit bull and started, little dogs what they do. And so the pit bull grabbed it, couldn't open his mouth, couldn't, the owner couldn't get his mouth open. The lady has blood all over. I mean, it was a mess. So Josie went and, talked to the neighbors, and, they got it worked out that they were able to unlock the jaws and whatever. The dog was not hurt. They just got a torn ear, got that fixed. But the point was that the um, the lady that was walking the little dog let the granddaughter hold the dog. The granddaughter couldn't hold the dog, keep it, and the lady that had the pit bull couldn't keep the pit bull. It was too heavy. When it started to bolt, it got away. It got out of hand. And so, and my neighbor made the comment that if people are out walking their dogs, they need to know how to handle their dog. Basically, both it was both parties' fault. And I say the same thing about real estate. You've got to understand how to manage your client. All of us are going to have difficult clients. And they get even more difficult when they lose trust. When there's a lack of trust, they start to be, because I could have, like Carol, I could have the same client you have, and I can manage that client. You'd be like, who is that, the same client? Like, what's going on? Why are they that way with you? Have you ever had taken care of kids and they're a certain way with some people and they're a different way with others? Have you ever had that
Yes.
happen? Okay.
Yes.
That's just people. That's just people. And so what's happened with kids is when they're compliant with, you know, Uncle, like with Uncle Nolly, they're not compliant. Okay. With with Tia Josie, they're compliant. She got them kids like they're like little soldiers. Okay. She used to teach kindergarten. She taught, the early ages. She knows how to get kids to comply, but a lot of people don't. And so what kids do is they'll test their boundaries, and when they don't feel confident that they have a strong person on the other side, they just go nuts. Now, not always. I mean, that you can have anomalies to that, but clients are the same way. And so they'll test you, but once they really feel like you know what you're doing and you're answering questions to their liking, they relax. And then they just let you have the reins. If they're not giving you the reins, they don't trust you. That's the whole key. That's the whole point. So either they have trust issues or you haven't done enough to establish trust with them. Okay. And that's what we call you're not managing your client. They're out of control. And you're not controlling them because you don't know how, and with a client, you can't be like, oh, I want them to like me. And all. No, I'm there to do a job. They're going to like me. They're going to trust me, but I'm going to do my job and I'm going to do it damn well. It's going to be so good. It's going to be better than they expect. Okay. So, all right, let's get back to this document. This document, so if you can get them to comply and fill it out ahead of time, that's an extra A in your corner because you're already teaching them, you're leading them and not being led. Okay. You're going to have some strong-willed clients and you're going to have to be real strong back with them and say, hey, you hired me, you're paying me to do this. Here's my strategy. I'm really good at what I do. Okay. And pretty soon they relax, right, Stephanie? They relax and they're like, hey, whatever. Stephanie goes to her clients and like, well, what do you think? Let's brainstorm. Well, Stephanie, whatever you think we should do, well, I'm good. Why? Because she's already established that kind of, she's already put that out there, and they're like putty in her hands, and that's what you want. Okay, frankly, that's what you want. All right, so why my home is special? They're going to fill this out. Home features that we really enjoyed. And trust me, these are going to be things you think that you can come up with a great property description and all that. Nobody can come up with a better description than the person that lived there. That's why I'll say, hey, Stephanie, you've lived in this home 9 years, right? 9 years? Yeah. Well, I've been here so far about 50 minutes. So you're going to be eminently more qualified to know this information than I am. So what I'm going to want you to do, what I found, Stephanie, is that my clients that fill this information out, they get the most money. You want the most money, right? Okay, so this is what I need you to do. Can you have it done by this time? Oh, you will? Okay, great. And then you hold them accountable. Hey, Stephanie, it's 3 o'clock. Did you get that done for me? Oh, you didn't? Hmm. Tell me more. Now, you never ask somebody why. Why didn't you fill that out? Why didn't you get that's confrontational? So the why question should be removed from your vocabulary. Don't even go there. Well, why did okay, right now I got to defend myself. Okay. Um, so don't ask why, just say, hey, tell me more about that. No, I didn't get it done. Hmm, tell me more. Well, you see, I got this, you know. All right, there we go. Okay. Um, well, Stephanie, what I've noticed, and I appreciate you being honest about that, the fact that you couldn't get it done. But what I've noticed is that my clients that actually do what I ask them to do timely, they net the most money possible. And I know when we first met, you mentioned that you wanted to net the most money possible. Is that still true? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Okay, well, when I tell you to do things, I'm very calculated in how and by the way, Stephanie, we're just getting to know each other. So just so you know, do I have permission to be honest with you? So I always get permission. I say, Stephanie, can I have permission to be honest with you? And like brutally honest? Oh, I do? Okay, great. And then later on, if I have to be honest with them, I say, hey, Stephanie, remember back when you gave me permission to be honest with you? Can I do that now? Oh, I can? Okay, well, here's what I want to share with you. Okay, now I just did it with permission. It's very different. It's very different. Okay. All right. So home features that I have really enjoyed, they're going to fill that out. The type of person I think would love my home is because of these features. And don't correct them on what they put. Just let them write whatever they want. How would you describe your home to a buyer? And what are the features you like most about your neighborhood and area? Okay. Now you take all this information and you just plug it right into GPT. Okay. And you say, hey, based on this information, and then you might add some of your own if you want to. You might see what it comes out with first, and then you can tweak it. Write a property description on this property based on this information. And before GPT came along, I would just take all their information and I would write it out and they would read it and they'd be like, wow, you nailed it. How'd you get it? How'd you get it? So like, duh, I'm just using your stuff, right? But they get real giddy and excited about it. It doesn't even occur to them that I'm just using the document that they gave. I use some of their adjectives and some of their words that they use, even in the description, and they love it. Sellers just love it. They eat it up. So that's this document. Any questions about this one before we move on to the next one? Pretty straightforward.
I don't have a
Um,
question, Nolly,
sure.
but I will say that just in having you talked a little bit about, not having that confrontation.
Yeah.
And really I found a lot of success. And hey, can you tell me more? I've used that a lot, but another
Yeah.
thing that I have discovered is whenever you go in and you have all of this stuff together and you give them marketing materials, you give them the things, you're
Yeah.
not going to have that. They're going to do their homework because you just gave them a whole lot. And so it's like it almost creates kind of a sense of obligation. Like, you know how when someone gives you a gift, like you want
Sure.
to make sure that you're showing gratitude and being grateful for that. I think a
Hmm.
lot of times sellers see it as a gift. And so I've noticed that in those early listings that I went in a little less prepared. Um, I would have stuff like they didn't fill stuff out, or they didn't get that seller's disclosure back to me. um as where as I've progressed in my career and I show up with a whole dang listing presentation and packet, they're more apt to just do it without conflict because
Yep.
you already gave them something of value.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
called
like
it's
this
called the
is
law.
just a couple of short
Yeah.
little papers that she's asking me to fill out. Meanwhile, she just handed me an 80-page book.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the law of it's called the law of reciprocity. So is what you're describing. And the reality is we actually end up getting less because see, sellers are ready to push back, especially on our commission. And so people ask me all the time, like, well, what do you do when somebody asks you to cut your commission? I never get the question. It never comes up. They assume when they see, and it, you guys haven't even seen like my presentation folders and all the stuff I'm putting together. It's nuts, and it's not very expensive, by the way. But when they see it, they just assume that I'm gonna charge them more money. It's just like when you go into a store and you see a certain kind of, suit, or you walk into a certain store. My wife, she walks in the Louis Vuitton store. I already know we and most of the time it's just to look, thank God. But I already know I'm not gonna be negotiating. I'm not gonna be asking if they can cut their prices. Could I get a discount? What kind of sales do you have? None of that's gonna happen. So when just think about it. When's the last time she's got this? I'm not even gonna tell on her. She got this one purse that is, it's up there. They're not trying, you walk in, they're giving you like Fiji waters, and you getting they got a little charcuterie tray. I mean, you already know. It's like you're not negotiating nothing. And so I don't know if it's that they know already, or they expect not to negotiate, but they just never do. It's like walking into a fine dining. When's the last time you looked at a menu? You know, the filet mignon, it's $57. Okay, you get one side. Everything else is a la carte. When's the last time you called the waiter over like, hey, could I get that for $49? Or could you do it for 38? It ain't never happened. If I was to walk into some of these restaurants that I got a guy taking me out to eat on Wednesday, trying to get my business. We're gonna do it. We're gonna go to a nice place. And I'm not gonna be able to negotiate the prices on the menu. It's not gonna happen. Okay. So I run my business just the same way. It's not that I tell them they can't negotiate. It's just that it doesn't even cross their mind. So, and Stephanie could probably attest to that, it's just a different level. Carol, you had a question.
Yes, I did. On the Why My Home is Special doc, does this work for as is properties?
Yeah, of course. It works for everything. Yeah, yep, yep. I mean,
Second,
I've had, I mean, if it's a tear down, then that might be different. I've had a couple tear downs, but I've had hoarders, I've had properties. I sell a lot of as is, and even distressed properties. Now, if it's a distressed property, we might, depending on the situation, if it's a short sale, price is going to be our strategy. Period.
right.
So it doesn't really matter. A lot of this stuff doesn't matter.
That makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense. You said Nolly, or I think it was the other lady, Stephanie.
Stephanie,
Tell me
you're my
more. Tell me
co-pilot. What's
more.
up, Steph?
You
Go
didn't
ahead.
complete this. Tell me more. Can you also add to that, or if you forget to say, tell me more, can you say, or what's happening? What's going on? Is that also confrontational?
No, I would say tell me more. If I ask you what's going on, I'm assuming that you got issues. I'm telling you you got issues. So if I say, Carol, what's going on?
And you're
I'm
giving
telling
him an out.
Yeah, yeah. If I just say tell me more, it's very open. It's so open-ended. It could be anything. It's like now if they need more, most people don't like to ask that question and I didn't like it because my coach would always ask me that. And it was, but it's an awkward question to ask somebody. It's uncomfortable because it almost like it's weird. It's a weird question. But when you just say it, I'm good at it now because done it for years. I just say, "Oh, tell me more about that." You could throw that in there if it's more comfortable for you. But now I just say, "Tell me more," and I just leave it at that. And then they unravel the onion because there's always a question behind a question.
Got you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so that's one doc. Let's go to the next one. Let me open that one. All right, so document number 7 is my home's upgrades. Now, this one, let me share my screen. Most people
I had a quick question.
yeah, go for it.
Where are these documents that you're
Well,
showing us right now?
as I'm going through this, I'm releasing them to you. So you don't have these yet.
Oh,
All the
okay.
other documents are in, if you go into school,
Uh-huh.
and then you go to the, here, let me show you. Do you know how to find the other documents that from previous weeks or
I'm
no? No.
no, because
Okay.
I'm in school right now and I'm in classroom. So,
No, it's not in classroom yet. It's in
okay.
the, here, let me show you.
Oh, it's in the community section.
No, it's in, I'm sorry. It is in classroom. No, it's not in classroom. Is it in, it's not in, it is in classroom. It is in classroom. I'll show
Okay.
you where.
Okay.
Um, it's in both. It's in both the community and classroom, but let me just show you it in classroom. But it's not a section yet. This, remember, this is going to become a master class. Here, let me open. This whole
Sorry.
series that actually it's going to end up being 3 master classes. So here's where you are, right? So it's going to be in the
Uh-huh.
coaching library.
Okay. All right.
So if you go, you'll see um, all these that we've done in the past.
Yep.
And then and as I'm doing them, I'm actually releasing to you the the editable version of these documents.
Okay. Awesome. Thank
Or I
you.
should say Paul's releasing them to you. I'm not doing nothing. I'm just I point. I'm a good pointer. Paul's great. He does really good. All right, so now we're going to get into number 7, and that is your My Home's upgrades. Now this is a document that can be easily overlooked, but it's very important for them to articulate and let me know and the world know this is all the stuff that I've done on my house. Okay. Now you could run this back through GPT and have it put together a list of things for you based on this. But essentially, here's how I have it organized: upgrades to the interior is on the left. So anything that you did to the interior that's fairly recent. So like you got a new water heater within, the last year. Okay, we want to know about that. How much did that cost you? Now, here I put cost and value, and they're different because, and this is what I tell people. I say, look, if you did something yourself, then I want you to put the value. If you had it done, I want you to put the cost. Because a lot of times people will do the work themselves. And so we always want to capture what it's worth, not what they paid, in other words. Okay. So if they got it done for, $500, but it would have been 1,500 if they hired somebody, then I want to know the value. Does that make sense? So the interior is on the left, exterior is on the right. Yard and landscaping upgrades, I want to know. I'm digging holes. I charge 150 a hole. So I got a whole bunch of holes out there. No, I wouldn't put that, but you guys get the idea. Um, Additional buildings, and then you add up all that, and this is going to be the total of all the upgrades. It's interesting that, I mean, our house in Puerto Rico, we had over $300,000 in upgrades in that house. Okay. And they're not all upgrades that we did. There's some upgrades and improvements that were done by the previous owner of the property. The whole kitchen was redone. They added two rooms. There was a huge pavilion added to the back. I mean, there was a bunch of stuff added. They came over 300,000. And so a lot of times there's things that are done to your house or were done before you bought it or that you've done that you'll be surprised when you actually add it all up the total value is of that. Um, I mean, obviously if the house was painted like 4 years ago, it may not count. Okay, but if it was recently painted in the last year, you could count that. Any questions on this document? This is very valuable. And whenever I do this is just me. Whenever I do my listing descriptions, I always start it with the amount in upgrades. So I say over $45,000 in upgrades or over 15,000 in upgrades. And I have a list to back it up that I upload to MLS. So if ever and the reason that's important is because when in a market where there's a lot of inventory, I want you to know that my house, like for example, this house that we bought, it sits on 2.5 lots. 2.5 lots. Now, the average house, I didn't know that until after I moved in. Okay. Because the listing agent never marketed that as a feature. I knew it was a big lot, but I didn't know it was 2.5 lots. My neighbor Joe came over. He was like, you know, you got 2.5 lots. I said, oh, that's good to know. So most lots have one lot. Okay. So now I can say, okay, if I ever go to sell, I can say, what's the value of a lot? One lot is extra like 45 grand. So you got boom, boom. Okay, now you got 2.5 lots, and I put that as a value. And then this number starts to come up or starts to grow, if you will. So those are all things that most agents overlook, but they're very important if you want to get the home sold. And if you're competing with other homes in the neighborhood, you want people to know what the upgrades of your house are, the one that you're selling. All right, so let's go to the next document, and that is um the that's going to be the MLS sheet. That is let me open that up. Any questions so far? Everybody right as rain. All right, so this document is something that I created. It's been a while, and um, I probably will be updating it. But what I did was I noticed that in our MLS in Austin, Texas, there are so many different check boxes of different things. I mean, they don't leave anything you know, I should say unchecked, but that's goofy. They don't leave anything, any stone unturned when it comes to all the things that you could list um, your property having. However, what you'll notice is that where do most people look for homes? Places like Zillow, Realtor.com, right? And most of them don't have all those different options of search criteria. So what I did was I said, I just want to know the search criteria based on the criterion that most people are inputting. What are the most important things that people are looking for in a house? And that's what these 2 pages represent. So it's like if I was to download my MLS checklist, it'd be like 9 pages. And I just condensed it down to 2 pages of, hey, these are the main things that that buyers are looking for. And as long as I have these, I'm going to capture like 99% of buyers. So I don't need to go through the whole 9 page checklist of all the different things that the house has. Because the whole key, all you're doing is trying to get somebody to go to show the home. That's all. You're trying to get them in the front door. Okay. And sometimes you can get sometimes you can have too many pictures and sometimes not enough. You know, it's like, no, you didn't have to have that picture in there. You could have done without that photo because now you're going to get less people in the house. But if so a lot of people think less is more, but it's not true. It's not, it could be more, but not in all cases. So I want to know obviously the address, stories, living, dining, bedrooms, full bath and half baths. And then I just have I have the seller fill this out. Okay. So, and then they just check off garage spaces, two attached, dining, da, 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 da. They go through the whole thing. Now I will look it over just to make sure that, but in most cases, I'll tell the seller, don't miss or skip anything. This is very important. It's a very important document because this is how Barbara's going to key it into the MLS. We don't want to overlook anything. If you have a question, reach out to us. So again, this is a 2 page document that I have my seller fill out. A lot of times agents will just go out with a clipboard and they'll do this for the seller. And I want to caution you against that because if you start doing high volume, which you can, you're going to hate that you're doing this much, stuff yourself. When I was listing, 100 plus homes a year, I had one guy, and my wife and I were just talking about this. We had a van that was wrapped like the Nolly team and all my logo, my picture, and all this stuff. And he actually got to the point where he had to keep the van at his house because he was out on the street all the time. You know, he only worked like 4 or 5 hours a day, but we had like 70 signs. We had, gosh, I mean, we probably had like, I don't know, 80 lock boxes. And he would inventory everything. He would wash my signs, keep everything clean. And when I went on a listing appointment, I would just do the appointment and that was it. They're like, "Are you going to put the sign up or do?" I'm like, "No, I got a guy that does all that." Like I'm not putting in because literally if I'm going to put a sign in, it's going to take me 5 minutes. If I'm going to fill this out, it's going to take me another, 10 minutes or 15 minutes. That's already 20 minutes. If I put the lockbox up, that might take 2 or 3 minutes. So I mean, you're counting minutes, right? Times 100. If I save 30 minutes on every listing times 100, what is that? That's like 50 hours. How many of y'all would like to reserve 50 hours of your life? Okay. So literally these little things that you think, oh, it's just a little thing, I'm just going to do it. They add up when you run a high volume business. Okay. And it's more accurate when the seller does it anyway. So if there's any questions on this, let me know. If not, I'm going to go straight to the last two. Uh, which are, oh, Carol, yeah, what's up? You don't have to raise your hand. You can just
Your
cut me
high-end
off.
your high-end luxury people sometimes are a little bougie. Will they
Uh-huh.
really want to do this?
Um, talk about the price range. What are we talking?
At least I would say 750 on up.
I would have them do it. If you're talking 750 is, I mean, it depends on where you live. You're in Maryland, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, 750 is not high end. It could be with some people. If they're in the high end, then yeah, you might want to you can adjust your strategy, if you feel. But a lot of times it's just um most of the time it's just your own internal belief. You know what I'm saying? Because high end people are just like anybody else. They're mostly not. I mean, it might just be Austin, but these high end people we deal with, right, Stephanie? I mean, they're not bougie. They're just people. They're just
Well,
rich.
and a lot of so what I usually do, I have a similar one that I've pulled from the MLS, and that's what I use.
Share that with us.
Um,
Yeah, we want that.
and well, it's
You don't have to
actually
do it
so
now.
well, if
Just
you go on your MLS, it's usually in because I'm on several different MLSs and I have one for every area. I actually have the
but
printouts
it's like
over here.
9 pages, right?
Well, some of them are two. It depends on
Okay,
which, like
okay.
I have
Yeah.
one from one MLS. It's like 14 pages. But yeah, it's crazy.
That's
And then
Abor.
I have another one that's 2 pages. So
Okay.
what I usually do, and I do have I do a lot of ranch stuff, so I have higher end clients. Miss Carol, what I'll do is I go in and I kind of fill it out already for them so that it's partially done, but so that I accurately represent it on the MLS, like I'll already have how many stories it is or the square footage, because they're probably not going to know their square footage. I'll have some of that basic stuff already done for them. And then I'm just like, hey, so that I make sure that I accurately represent this on the MLS, please fill this out. Please complete this and I do that because I may assume that the water heater is electric when in reality it's gas.
Hmm.
So it's really best to have them do that. And none
Yeah.
of my bougie clients are um none of them have had a problem with it.
The thing is, if you explain to someone why you're asking them to do it,
They'll do
um,
it.
they'll do it. It's just period. Now, what I used to do was I would have Morris do this. So the guy that was on my that basically did all my, he was like a runner. He did all our signs and lock boxes and stuff. He literally would just go to all the properties and just do this, and I just paid him to do it. Because I don't really like I don't now if you really enjoy doing it, then that's a different thing, you know. And so again, you can always adjust. I'm teaching you how I've done it. Don't take it as gospel. You could always do this yourself. But the day comes when you're like, I don't feel like walking through this house and doing this, or now you've got yourself in a little bit of a pickle because you're doing things that you don't enjoy doing, and there's no reason for you to do it. It's not going to be more effective, and you think you're doing the seller a favor when you're really not, because it's better for them to do it, period. You know, and if they understand why it's better, they'll do it. They could be bougie or not. You know, they'll look. We're trying to get you the most money possible. You know, but there's different ways you can do this. You know, and it's based on your comfort level. But a lot of times people are just not very confident, and so they end up doing more than they have to, I should say. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to just quickly go through the last two because they really don't. I mean, they're self-explanatory.
Hey, Nolly, you pushed mute.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so yeah, I always these last couple are very simple. Um, I think Paul muted me. I didn't mute myself. Paul's like, stop blaming me for everything. All right, so this one is the top tips on preparing your home for sale. And I don't want to say I've gotten lazy. I don't really go over this with a seller. I just say, look, Mr. Seller, these are some of the bigger things there. Some are small, but these are kind of the bigger things that we recommend that you go through just to make sure you have your house ready for sale. And it's a lot of stuff. So I'm like, you don't have to do all of this because really my top three are clean, declutter, and paint. Those are my top three. You know, clean the house, make sure it's, really, really clean. Because if the house is dirty, it just shows differently, right? Declutter. So if you've got a lot of stuff in your home that doesn't, it's great for living, but not for showing, then just remove that stuff, put it in the garage, box it up, just get it boxed. You're gonna have to move anyway because you hired me. You already need to start packing. Okay. So go ahead and pack up a third of your stuff, put it in the garage, and now you got less clutter. And then let's put a coat of paint on this thing. Maybe just these three rooms, whatever it needs. Those are the top three. And then a lot of times they're looking for more things that they can do. So I say, well, here's my top recommended tips. Okay. How to, cleaning, neutralizing, and so on. So I give them this. You'll have the editable copy. And then I also give them the top tips for showing their home, which is this one here. So once
I
the,
was going to say this one
yeah.
that the one about what they should do to prepare their home for sale. We actually will give that to sellers to prepare for the photographer
That's perfect.
because we really need to have it looking that way when the pictures are taken.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Cindy, because when I take a listing, like I just took one last week, and I put language in the listing where I say that because it used to be they stopped doing that, but it used to be on the listing agreement, you had to have the house on the market within so many days, right, of the listing agreement. But
Mhm.
now I say within 7 days of photos, of photography. So I tell them, hey, once you have all this ready and you're ready for photos, then you reach out to us and let us know. Yeah. So you're right about that for sure. And then we schedule the photos. Good point. Very good point. Thank you, Cindy. So, and then the last one is, where's that last one? Here. The top um, tips on showing your home. So, and this is just common sense stuff, right? But like the television and radio should be turned off. Um, does anybody use radios anymore? I, I guess, I mean, we do in a way, right? And devices. Maybe I should say devices. Some of this could stand some updating. Be absent during showings. This is truly goes back to the fact that these are once and done. Like literally, I did these years ago. I'm just now updating them, but literally, you can use your pre-listing package once you have it done. This is not an exaggeration. You can use it for 10 years. Then you'll be like, I probably should update it, and then you just update it. It's no problem, you know. Carol, you had a question.
Nolly, what is the best way to give this package to someone? Should you drop it off with the book or just drop it off after they look at the book and they call you back? Or should you put all these documents together and have like a little spiral bound booklet to give to them? But then that would be two booklets, or just put it in a nice white binder with plastic sleeves.
Yeah, there's all different people do it all different ways. I'm trying to find I'll show you the way I do it. Because there's no right or wrong answer. Um let me see if I have print. Here it is. So the way I do it, I bought a printer at Costco. It's a color laser. It's a really good printer. It's like 350 bucks. And now there's a lot of documents that, and I went, I showed these to Paul earlier. He was like, "You got to show them to everybody." Maybe I will. Maybe I will. Because I have stuff printed professionally. Okay, but when it comes to the pre-listing package, there's some professional documents, but I group them in three sections. So one section is the seller homework. That's this right here. And so if I were to open this up, you'll see it's just 4 pages. That's just the homework itself. Okay. And that's the documents that we just went over today. Um, then there's the 2 pages. Let me see if this is, there's this one, which is the cover letter, top 10 reasons, the sales system, the real results, which is testimonials, top 4 reasons homes don't sell, and the 10 questions. Okay. Now, all of that is, I just staple stuff. Yeah, like you staple it? Yeah, that's what I do. I put a side staple. So the way I do my staples is instead of putting it at the top, I put it on the side so that it opens sideways, to the left. So I have these 6 documents together. I have the other um, 4 documents, the homework together, and I usually print the homework on different paper. Usually I print it on a real bright. Let me see if I have an example on a yellow paper so that it stands out from these pages. And then the other 2 pages that I just went over, the tips on getting their home sold, I usually have those pages separate, just loose leaf. And so that's how I do it. And then I usually have an envelope like this, it's a yellow envelope, but it's clear on the one side. And then inside this envelope, I'll have my book, my pre-listing package, and and then a QR code for the seller video. So it all comes together. Now, when I go on the listing appointment, I'll have a presentation folder, which is completely different. It's not that because I don't want to. I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed of these, but that's the whole thing. I drop up. I have it dropped off, and I have a runner do it to just drop it off on their front porch, so that it's there 24 hours before we meet, so they at least have it. And people get hung up. I know we're over time. We're going to cut it off. People get hung up on this whole idea of, um, uh, you know, will they really read the book? Have they had enough time to? It doesn't matter. Once they pull that stuff out and they see that, they can look at it for 3 minutes and they're sold. That's all I want. I'm just going for the effect. And then as I'm there at the appointment, I say, hey, this document's very important. This homework, I noticed you hadn't filled it out. That's okay, but we're going to need it by this time, next week or whatever. And then I'll
Mhm.
go through different elements of the package because it's already done its job, which is the job of the pre-listing package is to generate trust and to get them to release the reins because they got the reins tight and I want some slack in those reins.
Mhm. You want to
And
diffuse. I got that.
yeah, Yeah, and that's the whole point. It's like, well, did they really read everything? I don't care. As long as they sign with me. I literally, when I went on the listing appointment this past week, and this lady, I was able to go through the pre-listing package with her the day before. I actually went through the package with her before we met, like 2 days before. And we met on a Friday. We went through the pre-listing package on a Wednesday because she happened to come over to the house. She's a friend of ours. And so she had the pre-listing package on her kitchen table, tucked inside of my book, like literally she hadn't opened nothing. She didn't do her homework. She didn't do nothing, but she was ready to list because after she saw everything, she was like, wow, this is impressive. And that's really what I wanted. Well, you didn't read my book. Who cares? You know? All right. So that's time. If you have any questions, I know there's a couple of unanswered questions out there in the group. What's up, Fred? Fred is in the house. I see you, buddy. What's up, Michelle? So if you go back and listen to this again, a lot of good content. This whole series, Tools of the Listing Trade, so very important. Well, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Success with Listings podcast. If you are serious about taking your real estate career to the highest heights, making more money and helping more clients while working less hours and spending more time with your family, be sure to get your copy of my free book, Triple My Listing, absolutely free at successwithlistings.com. Now, you want to be sure that you subscribe to the podcast and check out successwithlistings.com to get your copy of my free book. Hey, I'll see you on the next one.